Documentary is true crime documentary about a young man named Kyle who works at 7-Eleven. He works the night shift. He's a shy guy. He's happy that he works the night shift because he doesn't have to be around a bunch of people. Young guy, teenager, working at a 7-Eleven. That's normal. When I was a teenager, I worked at a grocery store, McDonald's, whatever. So as watching this true crime documentary, the whole crux of it was, why did this random assailant come to the 7-Eleven, shoot Kyle point blank in the head, then set his body on fire? And in the documentary, they actually show some of the surveillance footage. The police officers and detectives were kind of apprehensive about the surveillance at first because they thought that the smoke damage from the fire would have affected the video equipment. But what happened is, a woman is looking inside the 7-Eleven, just a witness, and she sees a lifeless body on the ground, on the floor rather, on fire. Now let's get it. Cal was just 18 at the time of his murder and resided in Punta Gorda, Florida. Described as a kind-hearted individual who welcomed everyone with a smile, Kyle worked as a store clerk at a local 7-Eleven. He was also quite popular in his community and most praised for him being down to earth. It was indeed a dark day when a thoughtless crime snuffed out his life. Kyle was at his post at the 7-Eleven on November 1st, 2015, when a man entered the store with a can of gasoline in one hand. Unbeknown to Kyle, the attacker had a gun hidden in his other hand, and once the store clerk confronted him, he shot him in cold blood. The first shot did not kill Kyle, but as he lay writhing in pain, the ruthless killer shot him a second time, killing him on the spot. He then took the gasoline and tried to set fire to the body and the counter. The show mentions that it took the attacker almost three tries to start a fire. So he's got the gasoline, he's pouring it on the body and on the counter, and he's going behind the counter to get the lighters that they sell at 7-Eleven. The first one didn't work, the second one didn't work, the third one worked. The show mentions that it took the attacker almost 3 times to start a fire, following which he quickly made an exit. When emergency services were made aware of the fire, they rushed to the spot to get it under control. The police were then able to recover Kyle's body, and an autopsy determined that he died from gunshot wounds. Who killed Kyle? Initial investigation into Kyle's murder proved tricky, as the police had no leads to work on. There were no eyewitnesses, and Kyle had no known enemies who would bear a grudge big enough to lead to murder. Besides, even his family struggled to understand why someone would choose to attack the 18-year-old. At a time when the investigation was being threatened by a standstill, the police discovered that the entire 7-Eleven store was under 24-hour CCTV surveillance. The camera footage will help solve the murder. Authorities pulled the feed from November 1st. That's the man who killed him. After sifting through hours of footage, the police were finally able to notice a man walk into the 7-Eleven store around the time of the murder. Although the whole incident, including the arson, was caught on camera, the culprit was careful enough to wear gloves and drape a hoodie over his head. However, the perpetrator walked with a limp and had a specific mannerism to his movements, which made the police release the video to the public, hoping for a lead. The show mentioned that within a day of releasing the video to the public, the police got a call from a man who claimed that his neighbor had the same limp and mannerism. Furthermore, the caller also went on to mention that his neighbor owned the same camo trousers that the perpetrator was wearing on the video. Considering the lead to be valuable, the police followed up on it and were led straight to Michael Russo. Although Michael denied being involved in the arson or murder, authorities got a search warrant for his house and recovered a gasoline can, which was later determined as the one used in the murder. Moreover, while trying to start the fire, the perpetrator had left one of his gloves on the scene, which further helped identify Russo as the culprit. Thus, with concrete evidence in their hands, law enforcement officials were finally able to arrest Russo. Once produced in court, Russo pled not guilty, yet the jury did not agree with him and instead convicted him of a second-degree murder as well as first-degree arson. Subsequently, he was sentenced to life in prison with an added consecutive sentence of 25 to 30 years in 2017. Hence, with Russo not being eligible for parole as of yet, he remains incarcerated at the Central Florida Reception Center. Now, I don't even know if there was a motive to this particular crime, or this guy was just going to kill anybody that he saw. A Florida man has been sentenced to life in prison for a fatal shooting and arson at a convenience store. A state attorney's office news release says 29-year-old James Russo was sentenced Monday. He was convicted last month of second-degree murder. Authorities say he went to the store and he killed the cashier, set him on fire. Like I said, I'm so lost as, the motive. What was the motive? And I don't think there really was a motive. I think that this guy was just, Hold on. Detectives quickly identified him as the suspect. Russo, 28 of 2105 Deborah Drive, was arrested at his home Tuesday. He faces second-degree murder and first-degree arson charges. Russo was given no bond during his first court appearance. Kyle was working alone inside the 7-Eleven at about 3:11 a.m. when someone walked into the store. Cal walked around the store twice before he found the person who walked in. The suspect was carrying a dark-colored, long-barreled revolver in his right hand, which was pointed at Cal's head, said the warrant, citing security video from inside the store. The suspect was also carrying in his left hand a red two-handled 5-gallon plastic gasoline can with a yellow cap on the sprout. The suspect fired one shot. Cal fell to the floor. Cal was lying motionless on his back when the suspect walked towards him and fired a second round into his body. The suspect then poured an accelerant over Cal's body, then onto the register. He picked up a cigarette lighter, attempted to start a fire. It didn't work. He picked up a second lighter. It didn't work. The third lighter worked. The suspect turned and ran out of the left door, carrying in the 3 lighters, latex glove from the right hand, red gas can, yellow sprout cap, and revolver while disappearing from sight running west. The suspect did not say one word to Cal. Along with the fact that there was no demand for money or property prior to the shots being fired, there also was no attempt to take money or property after Cal was incapacitated. Putting the pieces together. In interviews with detectives, Cal's father and Lori, a co-worker, mentioned an encounter with a customer 3 months prior. Lori advised she refused to sell Michael J. Russo alcohol, and he became belligerent to the point that police were called, the warrant said. She further advised Michael J. Russo was eventually trespassed from the store because of it. Cal was in training with Lori during the disturbance, the document said. Russo filed a complaint against Lori, then filed a second one against store manager Victoria Cross for not reviewing the first complaint. Russo obtained Cross's cell phone, then called her 4 times. She stated he was extremely abusive and argumentative with her to the point she blocked his number from her phone. Investigators believe the previous incident inspired Russo to return to the store. At this point in time, we believe that the motive was related to 2 incidents in which he was ultimately trespassed and forbidden to come back to the store. Detectives in researching Russo came across his father's 2012 suicide. Multiple guns were found inside the home at the time of his death, along with plastic gasoline cans similar to the one used by the suspect, the warrant said. Investigators then strengthened their focus on Russo. They observed him thoroughly cleaning his vehicle on November 2nd, 2015. The next day, detectives found a latex glove similar to the one the suspect wore during a controlled trash pull at his home. It appeared to be damaged by fire or chemical reaction, the warrant said. Russo matched the physical characteristics, mannerisms, and distant walking gait of the suspect. Detectives noticed Russo changed his appearance by cutting his hair and beard very short. Detectives then received more information from witnesses that it was highly unusual for Russo to have a clean vehicle or cut his hair, that he talked to others about wanting to know what it felt like to kill someone, that he complained about bad service at the 7-Eleven, that he previously threatened to kill a man, that he owned a gun similar to the one the suspect used, that he had a history of violence, including attacking his father with a knife and hatchet, that he stayed at 2 hotels following the killing. The hotel worker said his vehicle was packed as if he was moving. Russo was cited for having a BB gun and paintball guns on the campus of Florida Gulf Coast University in 2007. So basically, the motive was he was pissed off because they didn't sell him alcohol, which led to a trespassing warrant. He got charged with trespassing, so he came back and he tried to kill the people. Now, please understand that when you're out in public, please take everything seriously and take everybody seriously. Don't think that just because someone looks scraggly or whatever that they're no threat. Anybody can be a threat. Rest in peace to Kyle.